All right, so we've configured, information is flowing across the enterprise, but we're running into several issues because our bandwidth may not be as much as we like it to be, or the applications that we're using are just way too big sending information, or there's so many people, so much traffic on there. So how can we control that? Let's take a look at something called the RIP timers. I'm going to open up router 2, and again, let's set up our little window here so we can see exactly what we're doing. All right, and we're going to enable, and again, I am known for shortcuts, config T, and where you configure this is in router configuration. We'll do it under the IPv4 version of RIP. So we do router, RIP, enter, and I'm going to type a question mark. All right, and you're going to see this command right here called timers. And there's 4 different timers. There's an update timer, an invalid timer, a hold down timer, and a flush timer. And as I type them, we'll see what they're used for. So you type timers, and then if you don't know what to type, question mark to the rescue, basic. And then it tells you the first timer, the interval between the updates. How often are you going to send these updates to your neighbor routers? By default, it's 30. So if you have a problem with bandwidth, you may not want to send it as often. But we'll just stick to the defaults because we got good pipes going across, so we should have no issue. Then you type another question mark. Now it says the invalid timer. Well, what does that mean? By default is 180. That means after 180 seconds, if there's no update from your neighbor, it's going to consider this route invalid. The next timer is your hold down timer. And this as well is the same as the invalid. Why? If a route becomes invalid, you want to hold that information within your routing table for a certain period of time, especially if you have a physical issue in one of your interfaces that's coming up and down, up and down. So you can play around with your invalid and your hold down timers to hold the information longer before the route gets flushed. And that is our last timer that we look at, which is 240. So if you do not receive an update from your neighbor router, 240 seconds, that route to that particular network will disappear completely. Is there any difference in IPv6 and RIP-NG? No, there's no difference whatsoever. And of course, after you're done, you exit, and then you do a copy, run start. But those are your RIP timers.